Okay, so good morning. We are up to Chav Gimel and Beis, and we are at the bottom of Chav Gimel and Ben Aleph. We just finished the story of Chanei Magal, and unfortunately, the end of Chanei Magal, which was a bit sad, and learned out a fundamental, important lesson that having friends is vitally important to a happy life. And Chanei Magal did not have anybody appreciated him. At the end of his life, the rabbis, like we said, the Gemara B'Mitzvah Peidal, same when they daven for Rabbi Yochanan to die, they daven for Chanei Magal to pass away as well. This doesn't have anything to do with the sugya, which is a big one, about hastening death. This is irrelevant to that, because over here, they were not hastening the death. They were davening, but ultimately it was up to Hashem whether or not to hasten the death. This has no impact, obviously, on taking out somebody's feeding tube or the like. That's not the same idea, because there you're in fact hastening the death. So we're not going to get into that sugya here. Okay, so Zot the Gemara, Abba Chilkiah, 3 lines up. Abba Chilkiah by Breda Chanei Magal Hava. Abba Chilkiah was the grandson of Chanei Magal. V'chimatzrich al Malamitra, when the world needed rain, having Mishadra Abana Lagabe, the rabbis would go to him, to go and daven for rain, that the rain should come. Sounds like from here that the family of Chanei Magal was all miracle workers, and whatever Chanei Magal's connection to the divine was that was able to bring the rain, it passed along to his grandson. Right, because then the Gemara says, when the world needed water, when the world needed rain, they would send the rabbis to him, and he would ask for racham, and the rain would come. Now, it sounds like this was something that was common, meaning that he was already accustomed to bringing the rain. So this story that's happening sounds like already after he was known to bring rain. This is not the first time story. Which case it colors a little bit as to like why this is happening only after, he's already known as somebody who brings the rain. Not 100% clear. Zimna Chada, one time it happened. The world needed rain. The rabbi sent a pair of rabbis to him. So they should daven that the rain should come. They went first to his home and they didn't find him there. They went to the field, and they found that he was working, that he was hoeing, that he was a farmhand. He was working on a farm. As I pointed out before, maybe not in Taanit or in Brachas, but actually in Brachas we did on Lamed Hey, that the rabbis, many of them had jobs. So he was a schir yaim. He worked for a living on somebody else's field. Yavel Shalma. So they said hello to him. Turn the page now to Chav Gimel page. V'loi asber lahu ape. And he did not say hello back. He didn't return the greeting. So Bipanya, when it was getting, as actually the when it was getting the dark, so what happened sort of when it was getting dark was Kihava Minkat Sivi, when he was gathering up firewood, I guess, for his home for the evening. Dara Tzivi Umar B'chad Kaspa, he put his hoe, he put his firewood on one shoulder, Ugulima B'chad Kaspa, and his cloak, whatever it was that he had, he put it on another shoulder. Kula Urcha Loy Sayim Misane, on the top of Chav Gimel Beis, the whole time when he was walking back to his home, he was not wearing shoes. He wasn't wearing shoes. When he got to the water, he had to cross some water. So then he put on shoes. When he got to shrubs and thorns and thistles, the linalimane, he picked up like his pants or whatever it was that he was wearing. When he got to the town where he lived, his wife came out and she was all fapitzed. He muddled basically when he got home. Alice the Bisu Beresh, his wife walked in first. V'hada Ayal Iu, and then he walked in. V'hada Ayli Rabbanan, and then the rabbis walked in. Yosef Karach Rifta, he sat down to eat some bread. V'loi Omar Lahula Rabbanan Su Kruche. He didn't say to the rabbis, hey, why don't you have something to eat? Palag Rifta, the Yunuke. So he divided up the bread that he had among his children. Like a shisha chadal is literally trade. To the old one he gave one piece, to the young one he gave two pieces. Amar Lola Devis, we said to his wife, Yadana de Rabbanon Mishamitra Kas. I know the rabbis came because of the rain. Nesik le'igrav and let's go upstairs to the roof. Remember, the roofs were flat, right? So they can go up to the roof. People used to do a lot of the business on the roof. We just had the other day that what? What do we have the other day? We said that it's mishulachas, right? If the animal goes up to the roof to eat the child, you said, well, how's the animal getting up to the roof, right? So you said it's pashut, of course. If an animal goes up to a roof in the middle of the city, obviously that's mishulachas. So the Gemara says it was a chiddush. It was in the hunter's lodge, right in the middle of the woodland, middle of the forest. So over there, you would expect animals much more. Nevertheless, still to go up on the roof, that was the chiddush, so that's still considered mishulachas. Yeah. So the Gemara says now that they go up onto the roof. Right? People kept the babies on the roof. Again, the roofs were flat in those days. So then he says to his wife, let's go upstairs to the roof and let's daven for rachamim. What does it sound like? Right? Yitzchak and Rivka, right? Let's go up to the roof and daven. After the Matzah Kodesh Baruch Hu v'yesem mitro. And maybe we're going to ask Hashem for rain. Rain's going to come. And we won't get any credit for ourselves. They went up to the roof. He stood in one corner of the roof. She stood in the other corner of the roof. And the clouds came from the side that his wife was on. So when they finished davening, so the clouds were already on top, on the wife's side, before his. They came downstairs from the roof. Amalahu, Amai also Rabbanon. So he asked them innocently, why did the rabbis come visit me? So what did they say back? Amrile, they said to him, Shadri le Rabbanon legabe demar. So the rabbi sent us in order to come and ask you to intercede on our behalf to beseech the Rebbeinu Shalom for rain. Amar lahu, so he said to them, Baruch HaMakayim Shlei Hitzrich Eschem LaAbba Chelkia. Wow, Baruch Hashem that you don't need Abba Chelkia. Right, a good trick. He managed to get the rain without them knowing that he was the one who had gotten them the rain. Amrulay, Yadina de Mitra Machmas Marhu. He says, I know that the rain is only coming because of you. So Amrulay, Yadina de Mitra Machmas Marhu Dasa. I know that the pair of rabbis said to him, we know that the rain is here only because of you. You did a trick, didn't work. El Leimulon Mar, Hani Mili de Timilon. But please explain to us a bunch of things that we found a little bit difficult to understand. And now they go through the story. So remember, first we did something already in Brachos. You already pointed out a number of places, including Brachos Yudzayin, other places as well, that Meiser Rav, the idea of Gedolim stories and learning from that, is fundamental. Here is a story where they watched him do a bunch of things, and they thought about it, and it bothered them, and they wanted to know why he did it. And now we're going to literally list the entire time they were watching him and learning from him. And now they're asking him, we don't understand what you did, please explain. So my timer, shalma, why is it? When we said shalom aleichem to you, lo asber lan mar ape, that you didn't return the hello. So Amalu, skir yom havoy, Ve'amina lo yivka. He said, I said to myself, I'm a schirya. I'm a hired hand. I'm a schirya means I'm being hired by the day. I'm not being hired. It's not my job. Like I'm a white collar worker, and whatever I do, as long as I produce what I'm supposed to produce, it doesn't make a difference what I'm doing. No, I'm here to do a specific job on the specific day, and I shouldn't delay it. So we'll stop over here for a second just to think a little bit about this. The um, the Rambam in the end of his books always puts in some sort of what I call in English hortatory language, or what is in more of a drash kind of language rather than the pure halacha that he does generally. So if you look in the end of Hilchos Tziris, there in Paragid Gimel, the Rambam writes that a sachir, a schir somebody who's being hired to essentially be a worker, a hand, a hired hand on the farm. So he's not able to waste his time. He's not able to say hello. The Rambam brings a raya. We already had this in Brachas Zion. We had it in a few places in Brachas. But we talked about the fact that the rabbis were matir, a worker, as it relates to certain parts of Brachas Hamazon, at the last bracha, as it relates to certain parts of davening, that workers don't have to daven, bench as much as a regular person does. Why? Because they're so makbid on them not stealing from the balabais who's hiring them. So Abba Chilki says, I'm a hired hand. The rabbis were matter me not to forget to say hello. They're matter me what? Not even to bench or to daven in certain parts. So obviously, saying hello, of course, they're matter me. I don't have to say hello. Saying hello is very important for sure, but we we don't have to do that over here. I think more told us in Brachas, we learned that Rabbi Yochanan Zaka, no one would ever say hello to him before he said hello to them. He was always out there with an outstretched hand saying hello to everybody first. Very nice thing, but not on somebody else's cheshbon. Says the Rambam, if you're a hired hand, you're working for somebody, so every moment is precious. And you have to work b'chol kaychay. And who do we learn that from? Says the Rambam, we learn that from Yaakov Avinu. And he calls him Yaakov HaTzadik. Like Yosef HaTzadik, Yaakov HaTzadik. Yaakov HaTzadik said, Ki b'chol koichi avadati es avichan. Avichan, Esav b'vechel es maskurti es eres manim. Dad, Lavan, cheated me a lot, but I worked for him b'chol koichi. I always make a joke about this. It's a good joke, I think. But everyone always says that, Avart, Yaakov Avinu, that he learned in Yeshiva Shem Ve'ever, he learned it for, huh? He learned it for 14 years. How did you know he learned it for 14 years? Because the measure says that Yaakov Avinu fell asleep. And the pasuk says that Vayikatz Yaakov Mishanasa. Right? This is one of those places in the laning where you actually correct for a shva. You only correct for a shva a couple of places. I mean, people make egregious mistakes. There's a couple of times where somebody can make this as a mistake, which would be an egregious mistake, and you have to make sure that you're saying a shvana, not a shvanach. What does it mean? Vayikat Yaakov Mishnasai? If Yaakov woke up from his what? From his learning. Vayikat Yaakov Mishnasai meaning he got up from his learning, meaning he was learning the whole time and now he stopped his learning. That's not what the pasuk is talking about. The pasuk is talking about he was sleeping. Vayikat Yaakov Mishnasai, he got up from his sleep. So he got up from his sleep, meaning he was, say Chazal, not sleeping until then. Not sleeping until then. He never went to sleep. You say it's physically impossible? Yeah, what it means is not that he would literally never went to sleep. What it meant is that he never slept in a kavua way. He would sleep while he was sitting in a chair in the base manage. He didn't actually lie down. That was the first time he had lied down. And the joke I like to make is one thing is for sure. In the parsha, it does say that Yaakov tried very hard not to sleep. But it has nothing to do with learning. That's at the end of the parsha, where the pasuk says that he was working for Lavan, and he's angry at Lavan that Lavan's chasing him down, hunting him down, looking for these Getchulas, and he can't find anything. And Yaakov screams at him. And Yaakov says to Lavan, he dalakta achar, he came chasing after you, Mishashtes kol kelai. All the things that he goes after Lavan about. One of the things he says is, I worked for you like an unbelievable effort, superhuman. I put in a yeoman effort to work for you, and I put away to sleep from my eyes. That's pshat. The Yaakov Avinu was not sleeping for work is actually pshat and pasuk, but the Yaakov Avinu was not sleeping for learning. That's a medrash. That's not pasuk pshat on the pasuk. That was the joke. Nobody's laughing. I guess I say it over sharper at a later hour. In any event, moving on. So there's a Gemara in Kedushin Lamed Aleph. The Gemara in Kedushin Lamed Aleph says that bifneihem oimdim, but bifnei Talmidei Chacham einam oimdim. A schir yaim has a heter to get up while he's in the middle of working to go greet the Meviyah Bikurim. The Gemara Kedushin Lamed Aleph. The people who bring Bikurim, you have to greet them with song, dance. The people of the city, everybody was excited. Oh, it's bringing Bikurim. B'fneihem, only in front of the Meviyah Bikurim you're allowed to stand up and interrupt the work. There you could say hello and greet them and sing and say, great job. But for a rabbi, says the Gemara, if a rabbi comes, you cannot get up. You cannot say hello. So literally, Abba Chilke is doing this exact thing in this Gemara over here. Yeah. Maybe the rabbis didn't know he was a worker, otherwise it should have been partial to them. That could be. Yeah, yeah, he's working in someone else's field. That's what he says at the beginning. He says, I'm a worker, I'm a hired hand. Umay time adar martzivi echad kaspe uglime echad kaspe. Why are you carrying the firewood and his cloak? Also, he was carrying on one shoulder. So he was carrying the firewood and the hoe on one shoulder. Uglima and the cloak he's carrying on the other shoulder. He says borrowed. I'm not sure if presumably he's pretty poor. He had to work for somebody else's field. Maybe he had to borrow somebody else's clothes. He says, I borrowed it. Lahachi shali, lahachi lo shali. To have it on my shoulder where I'm carrying the firewood, it's going to get all ripped up. So I didn't borrow for that. I borrowed to wear. So I can't keep it on the same shoulder. So my time why is it that the whole trip you weren't wearing shoes? When you got to the water, you put on shoes. I'm sorry. Because when I was walking the whole way through, I was able to see. So I didn't need to wear shoes because I know where I'm going. When I got to the water, then I didn't see. I didn't see. The water's murky. So I didn't know. Rashi says there could be a fish, a snake. So if they're going to bite me, let them bite my shoe. Yeah, not exactly sure how the shoe's going to help if they bite you on the shin, but okay, that's how it is. It offers some protection. Or you could also say, I don't know why Rashi doesn't say. The pashut I would have thought is, I can't see, not because I'm worried about a snake. I'm not worried about a fish biting me in a murky water, but it could be that there's various obstructions on the ground. And if you can't see, you can get hurt, right? There could be a sharp rock, a jagged edge. If you don't have to go to a fish or a snake, you want to have a shoe to protect you. That's how I would have assumed the most part. In any event, now they ask me another question. So my time came out, so why is it when you got to the shrubs and the thorns and the things that you picked up your pants or whatever exactly they wore, right? And these in the Muslim lands, even till this day, a lot of the men they wear like a sort of a robe, So maybe that's not exactly sure. It doesn't say clearly, but whatever it was, he picked something up so that it shouldn't get hurt by the shrubs and the thorns, but he's essentially exposing his own skin that could get hurt. So the Gemara says that he responded, Amalu, Them maila arucha, them ain't a maila arucha, right? The the skin will heal if it gets hurt, but the clothes, the pants or the abaya, whatever it was that he wore, that will not get healed if it gets ruined by the thorns. So therefore, I have to pick it up and take the pain myself. My time kimata marlamata nafka the bisu de mar kim mikashta. Why does it when you came to the town, your wife came out to greet you, mamish, and she was dressed up for pitst. So I'm looking additionally etin eine beisha acheres. So I shouldn't be focused on or considering any other woman. What I said is exactly the question. But I will say a minute on this. I will say a minute on this, and the Gemara tells us in the Dharm, Chafam and Beis. The Gemara is not for the moment. It is an unbelievable Gemara. So if you have a chance to take a look at it, it's an unbelievable Gemara in a variety of ways. Among the things that the Gemara says is that Rabbi Elazar ben Horkinus was left with the very beautiful children, and the rabbis were asking Imma Shalem, his wife, why was that the case? And the Gemara there says that Imma Shalom has this unbelievably frank conversation with the rabbis who are talking to her again about her husband, but this time around and about activities that are reserved for the intimate areas of a family life, and she is explaining them to these students, which again is mind-boggling in terms of the fragments. But again, we all remember the Gemaras and the brachas where Rav Kahana went into the bedroom of Rav and Rabbi Kiva, and Ben Azeh, they went to the bathroom of their Rabbeim. Rabbi Kiva went to Rabbi Shua, and Ben Azeh went to Rabbi Kiva. So all learn because Tarif, a little bit on each tzarech. So this is the Gemara in the Dharm. There, the Gemara says that Rabbi Elazar ben Horkin acted with his wife. K'mi shekafu shei. I'm not getting into explanation now. There's a lot. The Ravid has a whole thing on it, but I don't have time right now. Whatever it means. So she explains that the reason that he did it in this manner was kadesh shloiten einai b'isha acheres. What does it mean? Not 100% clear from the simple reading of the Gemara what exactly it means. You have to use your imagination. But the one point I did want to bring down is that this is brought down la halacha. Not this Gemara, but that Gemara there in the Dharm is brought down la halacha. That Gemara in the Dharm comes out in Hilchos Ishus, Ibn Ezer, that it's also to mishamash mitasai while considering an other woman that is not one's wife. It's awesome, absolutely awesome. So Abba Chilki is saying that how did it happen in such a situation to be prevented? He's giving you here a recipe, and this recipe is actually brought down in marriage books by the people who study these topics. This is one of the classic Gemaras that a woman should have, and I want to be very, very clear. I'm going to record it live, so doubly clear. I'm not giving any practical instruction. I'm just saying there is an element of yeah. I won't say anymore. Okay, we're moving on. So anyhow, that's a bit of a background to understand this next this past line that we just had. Yeah. So next question was my timer. Aylihi Beresha, V'hada Ayl Mara Basra. Why is it that you walked in first? I'm sorry, she walked in first. V'hada Ayl Mara, then you walked in, Basra after her. V'hada Aylina Nana, and then we walked in. Amalahu Misham Lebet Kisigli. Because I haven't checked you into you. And I don't know if you're Anashim Ksherim or not. Now, I don't really understand the Gemara here. He's saying, I haven't checked. Look at Rashi. Im Ksherim and Pritzim. Like, who are you? I don't understand. Im Ksherim and Pritzim, that's the issue. What do the Gemara Brachas tell us in Samach? You're not allowed to walk behind the woman. And all the terrible things that happens if one does walk behind the woman. So even if you are an Ashram Ksherim, you shouldn't be walking behind her. So I don't understand this part of the Gemara. I don't have a good answer to it. I mean, I have a bit of an answer, but we're gonna have to leave it on the side for now. Yeah, fine. But I think it's a legitimate question to ask. Like, this is why is this an answer to that question? Yeah, fine. My time to kikarach ma'arifta le'armalan esu kruchi Um, they so why is it that when you sat down to eat, you didn't invite us to have something to eat? He says, He says, it wasn't a lot of bread. Well, I don't have a lot of food. And I don't want to make it out to you. Oh, why don't you come sit down and eat? And I know you're going to say no. And you're going to be all machzik toivin, but you can all say thank you to me, bechinam, even though I don't deserve it, because I really don't have enough food. I'm not giving you food. This is actually, again, practical ramifications. Lehalacha, you're not allowed. It's a isser of gneves das. When you know your neighbor is going away for Shabbos, and say, "Hey, you want to come to lunch?" That is isser gneves das. You are getting a situation where he's not going to be grateful to you. He's going to invite you for a meal. He's going to invite you back. But your invitation was, you knew, never going to be able to take up. And so you managed to get yourself into a situation where fantastic, got yourself a good lunch, and you don't even have to, maybe you'll have to repay in the future. But for now, you were able to avoid it. Yeah. So, my time you have my linuka keshisha chada. Why did you give the young one? Right, my time you have my linuka keshisha chada riftel is literally a tray. Why did you give the older one one piece and the younger one you gave two pieces? So Amar lahu haika bevese. The keshisha, the older one, he is in the house. V'hai Yasef veknishta, and the young one is in school. And so therefore, I guess he's hungrier because the older one is around the house. He can eat when scrounge around whatever he finds. But the younger one, he's in school. Whatever they don't give lunch, so he's hungrier. So that's why I have to give him extra. My time I caught him siluk anani mehach levisa dehave kamaisa de bezu demar la'anana diday. And why is it that the anonim came from the corner where your wife was standing before they came by your corner? He said, "It's a shricha bevesa. You have a riftel ani and mekayva naisa." My wife's at home, so when the aniyim come to the house, she gives them food. We're talking about aniyim. Yeah, this is not the caravans that come into various towns. Maybe they are aniyim. Maybe they have a din of an ani or not. It's a different topic. But these are little aniyim that, in the sense of not having enough food. So she's able to give them food because she's at home, she's cooking, whatever. So it's mekarva naisa. I just give them money. And this story should be an unbelievable lesson because you're talking about a guy who himself is working on a farm of somebody else. Like that's his job. He's mamish, cutting out pieces of bread, one slice to him and two slices to him, and he has reasons why he gives. We're not talking about somebody who had a massive amount of food. He didn't have enough food to offer the rabbis a meal. And yet he's giving tzedakah. And his wife's giving tzedakah. And Gemara tells in the end of Gemara tells in the end of Mitziah, Kufir Aleph, I think. Don't hold me on exactly. I think that's where it is. Gemara that talks about that in Mechayz, the woman very rich, so they were able to give nicer gifts. Normally, a woman's only able to give tzedakah al das baila, brought down the halacha. So that's why when a beggar comes, a woman should give him the money that her husband will be comfortable with. 5, 10, like not amount of money that would be like, whoa, why are you giving such a big amount of money? Give a small amount. So in this situation over here, we're talking about somebody who's very poor, and nevertheless, his wife is comfortable giving food that they're very limited on, because she obviously knows their husband will be okay with that. And he himself gives money despite their poverty. Yeah, Zati Gemara. So she got answered first because when she gives them hana, she's giving them food and hana much faster than ayin. This reminds me of the Gemara in Ksubas Hamazayin. The Gemara tells about the story of Marukva and his wife. Famous story, right? That they would give tzedakah, but they wanted to be hidden, and they once ran into an oven, right? And his feet got singed and hers did not. Again, the Gemara they gave the same reason because she gives the food, I give the money. She's Mekarva Naisa. These are literally, remember the story of Nachman Gamzu when we just had, right? The poor person uh, you know, was asking for some food. By the time he managed to take off, again, we had a different version maybe of this in the Yushalmi, in the Bavli's version. We said that he literally was taking off the mizvada off the donkey, and the guy was dead. That's the kind of level of poverty. We don't have that, Baruch Hashem, today to see. Yeah, Zot the Gemara. Inami, another possible answer as to explain why she got answered first is Hana Biryani to have Bishrusan. There was this Biryanim, again, Biryanim is a historical term for that time. There's no, the Biryanim are from the second Beis Hamikdash, right? This is the 60s and 70s where they're fighting with the Romans, right? So they're saying those Biryanim, we're talking hundreds of years later. Oh, I shouldn't actually say that it's so ahistorical because Mar Ukva is the time of the, he is a grandson of Chaim Maga, but he most likely the Briannim are long gone because the Beis Hamikdash is gone. But it's difficult to contextualize the timing. It's Chaim Mago. Right, Chaim Mago. If we learn our story yesterday, even literally, Chaim Mago didn't have more children after his 70-year sleep. Chaim Mago lives during the time of the second Beis Hamikdash. He's living at the time of Shimon and Shetach. So he's living 50 years before the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Let's say he's living in the year 0. So a grandson of his could have been at the time of the Brienne, literally. Would have been exact time of the Brienne. I don't see it because this is much like a story by the the times of the Amud Yomi. He lived 70 years. He didn't sound like he had more kids. It sounds like he died right away. That's what we had yesterday. So very difficult to see timing wise as Brienne was being literal. What it were bad guys. So the vernacular, Brienne probably came in to mean the bad guys, not the specific Brienne that we talk about by Tisha B'Av, the people who were in a huge fight with at the time, Rechem and Zakkai and the like, who were literally willing to fight to the end against the Romans. Yeah, so what happened? Hanu Brienne have Shvusan. I know by Rachman, so I daven they should die. He by Rachman Lahadru, but Tiyufta, and she daven they should become better. Lahadru, and they will value tshuva. Now, what does this remind us of? Of course, the Gemara in Brachas Yud, where a mayor and his wife, right, they had a debate about what it means in pasuk Yitamu Chaton Minar to Shomeid Einam. Does it say Yitamu Choidim Minar? Also, we had the Gemara in Hayam and Aleph there. Shimon Levi also daven that the people who were bugging him about psukim that they should die. And he wanted to make a chicken, to look at the chicken when it was a rooster's crown is going to turn white, and then it will be the moment, right? Fine. So this is not the appropriate person. Anyhow, she down. They should return. They return, so she has a special schools for that. Fine. Zat the Gemara. Another story. This is the story. What? This story was the story about Abachilkia, and sort of put a period on it, but it's not the only story here about the family of Chaim Mago. The Mago family seems to have been unbelievably Meluma Benisim, right? Chanan Hanechba, Barbarti the Chaim Mago. He was also a grandson of Chaim Mago, but this time from a daughter. Ki Masrich Amal Mitra, when the world needed water, have Mishadi Rabbanu Yinuka de Bei Rav Lagabe. So they would send the kids to him, right, to go pray on his conscience. They would send the kids to Benakle B'Shipuli Glima, and they would grab his cloak. Abba, Abba, Havla Mitra. And they would say, Father, Father, provide us rain. So he would say, he, Chanan Hanechba, the grandson of Chani, would say to Abrenishlam, Asay B'Shril Elu She'ein Makirim Bein Abba Diyav Mitra LaAbba Dilayav Mitra. Please, Hashem, provide the rain. These people, they don't understand who's the Father who actually provides the rain, the Father who doesn't provide the rain. Meaning, what am I? I don't provide rain. Why do they have such a weird name? Right? Nechba is to be hiding. Why do they call him that? He would hide himself in the bathroom. Right? He was not looking for the action. He was not looking for the recognition. He would hide himself away. As a result of this, the Gemara now says 2 different approaches as to how to deal with sorrows and how to deal with godless. Says the Gemara, Silo is the differences between the big guys, the big knackers in Eretz Yisrael versus the big knackers in Bavel. Chassidim above Rav Huna, Rav Chizda, Rav Huna, Rav Chizda, big Chassidim in Bavel. Yeah, Mishacham Lamitra when they need rain in Bavel. Remember, that's pretty rare to need rain in Bavel. In Bavel, right? We said it's full of rain, right? But when they need a rain in Bavel, Amri Nichnev Hadadi B'Niboy Rachme. Say, let's get together and ask for rain. Efsh de Miratzi Hakadosh Baruch Hu the Isi Mitra. So Hashem is going to see that we really need rain so badly, so He's going to send the rain. Meaning, they're doing it public, bepumbi, they're doing it together. Takif Yisrael. What about the great ones of the land of Israel? You're going to begin Avod Ramani. Mitra. When the world needed rain, have an Isle of Bese, they would go mamish to their home. Vavlu, and he would go to his house, and he would say, Havali Alki, give me a sack. Ibura, and I'm going to go with some money, and I'm going to go buy grain. So you have an afik libara, right? When he would go out now to go ostensibly to buy grain, this is the time when there's no rain and there's no grain. He would go out, the and he would go hide himself in a deep place, right? The Hashem. The he would go put himself in this private area deep down, no one would see him. Machasti b'sak, he would cover himself with the sack that he was supposedly going to buy grain with. And then he would daven and rain would come. Yeah, but also the basement, when he came to his house, Amrli, I see my board. They said to him, "No, did you bring the grain?" Amrli, Amino, Hayel Ba'asa Mitra, Hashta Ravach Alma. He says, now that there's so much rain, there's going to be a revuach in the world, so there will be enough grain to go out and buy now. Now we'll have to stop over here, but what does it effectively mean? It means that this story is an unbelievable story, that his own family had no idea what he was doing. His own family said, "Oh, I'm not going to give me a sack, go buy grain." But he didn't want to say, "I'm using the sack to go hide myself." Then I'm hiding myself in a few ways, right? I'm going to put myself in a deep down area, and I'm going to put the sack on top of me. All those things. Why? So it should be totally private. That the prayer for the rain is not being done in public. It's being done even private from his own family. Doesn't know what he was doing. All right.